I'm here with Strangeway, who is the author of the book Red as Blue, and she's also a filmmaker, poet, artist, so I'm really excited to talk to her about her new novel. Red as Blue is being sold as a graphic novel, but you described it more as a hybrid novel. How would you describe the hybrid novel?
Even though I'm well-read, I've always hated reading, and there's a sort of shame that comes with that, especially when you do love books and you do love reading. And when I sat down to write this book, I was really frustrated because I've always wanted to read a book the way I would read it, and no one's written that book in terms of content as well as style. I basically took out of novels and prose and poetry and screenplays all the elements that I like, and I threw out everything I didn't like, because for every format there's something that works extremely well, and then there's something that's just kind of like, why do we need that? It's a comment on society because we are not providing for the ways people think differently.
Can you tell us where you're from and how your background may have influenced your work?
I'm Vietnamese, but I was born in Laos, and my immediate family left Laos as refugees because the war in Vietnam was spilling over there. So we came to America, not by choice, but, you know, because we were escaping from violence, basically. And we ended up in Colorado after living in a refugee camp. That was what I wanted to capture, the way that environment influenced me and the way America influenced me in terms of the basically the prejudice that we experienced when we came here. It was a really awful experience because you just came from a really violent place and you come to a place when people like go back to where you came from, and growing up gay as well, and it was just like a double whammy.
Why do you choose which medium to tell the story?
Red as Blue came about as a necessity because it's a really dense book with a lot of stuff in there that would be my dream film. When you don't have the support that you need to get something like this made, what are you going to do? You're going to just
let it die?
Let it die? I said, no, you know, I'm going to take my filmmaking abilities into a medium that I can make as, you know, as cathartic as possible. And the really interesting thing about it is that once I started writing a novel and then creating this hybrid, I basically fell in love with novel writing. I really appreciated how much further you can go with words that you can't do with film. There are things in this book that you cannot film. And when I discovered those areas, I was just like, holy shit.
Diversity has been much more present in the mainstream consciousness.
Right.
But I'm curious what you think that's still being missed in that conversation.
You have to tell a good story at the end of it, and at the end of it, you have to show the humanity within that you have to show that person as a human being. Everything about this book is hybrid because, you know, main character is hybrid. She's Armenian Mexican, and part of diversity in the book is just really to show what America is, because we're under the impression that America is about Barbie Ken crowd and all that very wholesome stuff, and usually very white, and that has been very hard for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, because there are people who don't fit into that, and we don't have that on TV, and we don't have that in our culture, so we feel alienated, and we feel alone, and we feel left out. It's really healing, I think, for a lot of people to give everybody like a sense of belonging.
Yeah. How does June, the main character's racial identity, play into the story and inform her character?
I want it to be more subtle, where she feels so different inside, the way when you're gay, you look like everybody else, but you're very different inside. And so her choice, my choice to make her more of a hybrid or, you know, biracial, is to really not make it a story about a girl that's Mexican having a hard time, you know, but a girl that feels different because she is biracial and she is gay and she is poor and she has all these issues, you know, and I think that's more important.
School shootings come up into play, the 1980s come into play, her racial identity, her queer identity.
Right.
But they all seem to be something that you want to touch upon as opposed to putting straight up at the front.
The love story is the most important story a person can tell.
And why do you think that?
It's really important for a person to feel loved and to belong in order to contribute to society, you know, and when you don't have that, it just creates a lot of, it kind of creates a societal cancer. That's why there's so much hatred towards her and towards kids towards each other and the bullying in the book is just to show the importance of, that we need to like see each other as human beings. I really believed it was the, patriarchal Christian consciousness of the time that permitted people to hate so much and using the Bible to oppress people and to, and to make people feel awful and to make people feel self-righteous and giving them permission to hurt one another.
There's obviously been a lot of talk about school shootings going on now, but for this book, you specifically mirrored Columbine.
It was really one of the very first shootings that you saw happening on TV. The way the adults looked at it, the experts on TV were talking about it, really made me pissed off. Because they were explaining the youth experience. They were explaining to us why we did it and how messed up we were. And the whole time, inwardly, I felt like, no, the kids are doing this because society is messed up, because you guys created this world for us. You did something, you created this environment that allowed people to be bullied or to hate one another and to make them feel driven to this point. Now the kids are speaking out. They're the experts. They're talking, they're telling the adults, if you don't save our lives and you don't care about us, if you don't do it, we're going to do it. So F you. It was healing for me to hear that, because that was what was making me angry since Columbine.
Can you speak about why you chose to set it in the 1980s?
Because the 1980s was a really critical time for me, because I grew up in the 80s. Being gay was hard. Being another race is hard. I think ultimately what happens when you grow up in an environment like that is you end up having your potential killed. But to offer perspective to the kids today, so they can really appreciate how far we've come.
You've said that this book is meant to be a healing journey for gay youth.
I really feel that there's something deeper going on in our society that always tends to put down or underestimate like the potential that the youth have. Society is just set up to kind of put you through school and to college, to debt, to work, and then into kind of creating all this for you. But what if you were me, and you didn't want to just see the future as going to college and getting a job? Did anybody ever ask me who I really was, and what I really dreamt of? Did anybody ever care that that I had maybe had a vision for a better world, And I think for me the healing part comes in this book, because you see the journey of this girl who has all this potential, but because of the help of this cheerleader girl that she meets, she's able to nurture the gifts that's inside her and to bring it out, and together they overcome a lot of the obstacles that they go through. And to me, I think seeing that is very healing. And if society can help kids channel energy better and more creatively, it would be a much better world.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it too.
Yeah.